18 years ago, Harold Grinspoon had an idea.
I remember when Harold Grinspoon was just starting out PJ Library, and his vision was to offer free Jewish-themed children's books to any family that wanted it, no questions asked. And his goal was to get to families all over the United States. And I laughed. I thought, oh, sure, in Springfield, Massachusetts, you'll do a couple hundred books. That's great. We're happy to be part of this. But I learned very quickly to never underestimate Harold or any of his visions for what he'd like to do in the world.
Not only did PJ Library grow to reach families all across the United States, it grew to reach families all around the world.
One of the wonderful things about PJ Library globally is that there's the shared Jewish experience. So a family could be reading the same book in Japan that a family in New York is reading that same day.
And it's nice to have a thing that many kids in different countries read books that are just like us.
Along the way, it's fostered pride in being Jewish and nurtured Jewish joy.
People are also discovering their Judaism and how important it is for children at very young ages to be in touch with that learning experience about Judaism.
To have this abundance of titles and resources about our holidays and our traditions actually made my job as a parent who wants to instill pride in their children and our religion. It made that task much easier.
It's helped cultivate a sense of Jewish identity.
Getting PJ Library books definitely impacted my sense of who I am as a Jew today.
In high school especially, I kind of was able to find my Jewish identity and define it more clearly. And I think that a lot of that definitely came from the foundations of reading PJ Library books.
It's helped children know they are not alone.
It allows these kids growing up, as I was growing up, to feel like you're not alone. You have this huge community and there's lots of people just like you.
That makes her feel like she's part of a community, not just that one little Jewish girl in the class.
And it's enabled children to see themselves reflected in books.
I see my daughter feel proud of being Jewish, plus opening a book and seeing representation there as well. I think it's incredible. It's just very powerful.
It's hard to really fully grasp until you see a child react to seeing themselves reflected in a book. Once you experience that, then you understand why it's so important for them to have those books and those stories.
It's helped families share their Jewish values and traditions.
My clearest memory when we first started getting the PJ Library books and my son was 2 was how it filled this need that we had that I didn't even realize that we had, to suddenly have a book about Tu B'Shvat. And it's oh, it's Tu B'Shvat. We're going to read about a book about Tu B'Shvat. We were never going to bump into that at Barnes & Noble.
The PJ Library books we received taught us the rituals, the traditions, and we started doing in our household.
It's fostered bonding between children and their parents and grandparents.
One of the most interesting things for me as a rabbi is the fact that I would hear from my grandchildren. I was able to have a conversation about a book that they were reading, or their parents were actually reading to them.
As a family, reading these books and taking some of these stories that are set in the times where my grandparents were raised, I think it makes Hannah feel a little more connected to our family and to our family history.
It's the act of sharing that story, of having quality time, bonding time between a grown-up and a child that leads to a conversation about something Jewish, and additional questions, additional conversations, reading the book again and again. That's the magic.
It's inspired authors to explore Jewish themes, knowing their books would find an audience.
The whole point of this trip was to inspire authors to create more Jewish stories and to put more Jewish books out in the world. And I do feel even more well-equipped now to tackle that challenge.
PJ Library gives authors that write those types of books kind of a home.
And it's become a vital part of growing up for Jewish children around the world.
I wasn't the only Jewish kid getting PJ Library books. Pretty much every other Jewish kid I knew was also getting them.
Having something like that young that influences you still now, 12 years later, just shows how incredible of a program it was.
It's really gonna change the face of the Jewish community. We are building a generation of kids that will have the resources of Jewish knowledge.
The best part is, we're just getting started.